Hello all, welcome to Paritranaya IAS Science and Technology session. Every Sunday, our page will be devoted to science-related developments in The Hindu. So today, we'll be discussing about the science-related articles which have been published on July 2, 2023 in The Hindu. So the various articles that we'll be discussing are intensity of extreme rainfall estimated to increase by 15%. Next, crowdsourced data help identify flooded areas instantly. Martian gullies may have formed by melting water ice. First ghost particle image of the Milky Way galaxy. Next, astronomers find a planet Hala that should not exist. Cardiac events in COVID recovered patients. Next, key discovery. So we'll be discussing these articles and we'll be extracting important points from exam point of view. And these points will be beneficial from both prelims as well as mains point of view. So let us begin with the first article or the first news, that is climate warming. So we all know about climate change, climate warming, and we already made a separate video for the same. So wherein in detail we have discussed about what is climate change, what is global warming, what are the various reasons for it, and what are its consequences. So you can refer or you can watch that video in order to get a comprehensive understanding about the topic. So here we will be discussing about the extra things that have appeared in this article. So there is a science related one important publication which is called as Nature. So in Nature an article has appeared. So that article says that there is a decrease in snowfall and increase in rainfall at high altitudes. So where? Especially in northern hemisphere. So why it is so? Because of climate change, because of global warming. So we all know about Earth. The equator divides the Earth into two equal parts. So this is called as northern hemisphere. This is called as southern hemisphere. So where does India lie? So India lies in the northern hemisphere. So in the northern hemisphere, there are hilly regions and there are plains as well. So this article says that in the hilly regions, in the mountains, what happens? What is happening? So rainfall is increasing. Whereas snowfall is decreasing. Why it is happening so? Because of climate change. Now what happens when snowfall decreases and rainfall increases? So we are more worried about what? Increase in rainfall or extremes in rainfall. Why? Because when there is more rainfall and less snowfall, what happens? Rainfall always leads to what? Instantaneous runoff. So water will run. So when water will run very fast, then it can there is a risk of floods. So whenever there is a flooding, there will be a damage to infrastructure and it may also lead to landslides. So that is why we are concerned of increasing rainfall. So extremities in rainfall. And especially on whom it will have an impact? It will have an impact on downstream people or people who are residing in the downstream region. So this is mountain. So people who are residing over here, so they will be what? Affected. They will be affected. Why they will be affected? Because of the heavy rainfall. So water will pour and it will lead to flooding. So this is about these are the important things which are present in this article. Okay. So there are a few points from prelims point of view, and the same few of the points can also be quoted in mains as well. Next, volunteered geographic information participants. So from prelims point of view, this term is not important, but in mains it can be quoted. So whenever there is a flood, so we want to address the problems arising out of the flood immediately. Okay. For example, there is a flood, we want to rescue people, and also we want to provide some temporary shelter. So we want to provide food and all. But in order to do all these things, first we need to have information. So we do have information, but sometimes in order to compile that information, it takes sufficient amount of time. But if we want to address the problem in a faster manner, then we require access to real-time data. So here is one proposal wherein real-time data can be gathered easily. So through what does that means? Through crowdsourcing. Okay, through crowdsourcing. So people who are geographically located at different places, so they will share the information pertaining to their area. For example, a person who is sitting in Bagalkot, so he will send the information pertaining to Bagalkot. So what level of water we have received and whether flooding has taken place and all. So we'll share the information. Okay. And someone who is sitting in some other place, part of the country or state, so they will also share the information. So the people who will be sharing this information, they are called as volunteered geographic information participants. So because of this information pooling, so any decision that has to be taken to address the problem can be taken in an efficient manner and in a faster manner. So these are some of the images related to floods. Next, cardiac events in COVID recovered patients. So COVID recovered patients means those who have been victims of polio, sorry, not polio, of COVID, but now they have recovered. Okay, now they have recovered. So there are some instances wherein after recovering after 5 to 6 months, so people are facing some heart related problems, so cardiac problems. In that context, this article has appeared. Okay, this article has appeared. So here myocarditis or inflation of the heart muscle. Okay, inflation of the heart muscle has been observed in few of the patients who are COVID recovered patients. Okay, who are COVID recovered patients. So that is why now, so traditionally heart related problems were associated with what? Factors like tobacco use and high cholesterol. Okay, high cholesterol. But now even COVID-19 has now been recognized as an additional risk factor for cardiovascular diseases. So cardiovascular diseases means heart related diseases. So in this context, we come across a vaccine called as mRNA vaccine. So whatever the information that has been given here, it will not be sufficient, or directly on this they may not ask you a question. But whenever a term appears, it should arouse our curiosity. So what is this mRNA based vaccine? What are the different types of vaccines available? There are vectored vaccines, mRNA vaccines. So what is the difference? So whether mRNA vaccine was used in India or it was not used. So all these various things we have to explore for more information and note it down. Okay? And note it down. Next, few of these things line to line, they are not important. Next, PET technique called MFR or myocardial flow rate. So this is a technique of scanning the heart in order to diagnose the problem. So in examination, they may ask you a question like, what is PET technique or what is myocardial flow rate? And even they may ask you what one step deeper, how? So whether this technique is used to assess the tiny branches, or it primarily focuses on the larger coronary arteries. So it does not focus on the larger coronary arteries, that is heart related things, but deeper. It means it is a proper tool to analyze any heart related problems in a deeper manner. Okay, in a much more detailed manner. Okay, detailed manner. So in this context, again, see here a generic understanding which we need to have. When heart works harder, the muscle needs more oxygen. So when does heart works harder? So probably when we are doing exercise or when we are playing. So our heart it starts working harder. So when it starts working harder, it requires what? Now this is supplied by an increased amount of blood flowing. So blood flowing through these tiny branches will take place more. Okay, take place more. So at that time, if that supply is not made properly, then that condition we call it as what? Ischemia, or lack of oxygen supply. So when there is a lack of oxygen supply, then what happens? This could result in chest pain, shortness of breath, or even excessive tiredness. Okay, excessive tiredness. So these are few of the important things which you have to note from in this article. Next, Martian gullies. Okay, so it is about planet Mars. So here important points to note are red planet. So which of the planet is also called as red planet? Mars is also called as red planet. So in order to confuse us, sometimes they may give us like Venus is known as red planet. No, Mars is a red planet. So here gullies. So what are gullies? If you look at this image, you will get to know what exactly gullies are. Okay, what exactly gullies are. So now gullies may have been formed by melting water ice. So it gives a clue that there might have existed some ice and water, and because of that melting, these gullies might have been formed. Okay. So this is not that much important. So here the important point is Mars is also called as red planet. Red planet. Next, ghost particles, a very important article. Okay, a very important article which has important information. So here we come across a term called as neutrinos. So what are neutrinos? they are invisible and they are also called as ghost particles. So question might be posed like this: which of the following are called as ghost particles? Neutrinos, neutrons, electrons. So such kind of questions may be framed. So here neutrinos are also called as ghost particles. So whether they exist in nature, yes, they do exist in nature abundantly, but they are not visible. And one more important property of neutrinos is that they pass straight through the earth undetected. It means earth consists of what? Stones, soil, everything. So these neutrinos, so they pass through this earth without being what? Obstructed. They travel straight. Okay, they travel straight without being obstructed. A very important property. So now in this context, why these particles have appeared? So the Milky Way galaxy. So we know that our solar system is part of this Milky Way galaxy. Milky Way galaxy. So the Milky Way galaxy has long been discovered through the various frequencies of electromagnetic radiation. First ghost particle image of the Milky Way galaxy has been determined. So generally when you take an image, we have what? Electromagnetic radiation. For example, it may be gamma rays, X-rays, ultraviolet, visible, infrared, etc. So most of the images which we have taken of the Milky Way, they are in the other ranges, other electromagnetic radiation. It may be in the visible light or other range. But now first time, with the help of these, we have taken the what image of these Milky Way with the help of ghost particle, with the help of what? Neutrinos. Only at a superficial level you understand, that would be sufficient. That would be sufficient. So here, because we have used it for the very first time, so it becomes important. First time the image of the Milky Way galaxy we have taken with the help of what? Neutrinos. Okay, neutrinos. Next, hala. So when our sun reaches the end of its life, it will expand to 100 times its current size and will open the earth. So here, this is the solar system. So what happens here? When our sun reaches the end of its life, so here we have sun presently. When its life is coming to an end, then it will expand like anything. To what extent? That everything it will consume within it. So including earth. Here we have earth. Here we have earth. But here they have mentioned about one more, what? Jupiter like planet called as Hala. Okay, so Hala is a planet. So Hala is a planet, so which is revolving around a star called as Beku. So this is star called as Bekdu, and this is Hala is a planet, and this planet is revolving around this star. This planet is revolving around the star. But Hala is very close to star. Okay, compared to the distance between Earth and Sun, the distance between Hala and this star is very less. But despite this, so this star has not consumed Hala. Suppose if it was Earth that was this much closer to Sun, then Earth would have been consumed by Sun. But now this has not happened. In that context, this article has appeared. Okay, So in this article, what becomes important is Hala is a planet and Bekdu is a star. Okay, star. That much information would be sufficient. Next, extraterrestrial life in our solar system. So in this article, so whether extraterrestrial life exists apart from the Earth, can we find life somewhere else? So some clues we have got. So about that they have presented the information here. So what is that? So Saturn has a moon called as Enceladus. Okay, so here in our solar system, this is Saturn. Now Earth has a moon. Similarly, other planets also they do have moon. Some of the planets have single moon and some of the planets have multiple moon or satellites. Similarly here, Enceladus, it's a satellite of Saturn, or it's a moon of Saturn. So study suggests that in this moon there are what? Traces of phosphates. So this indicates that life would be possible in Enceladus, or life might have already existed in Enceladus. Okay, why? Because phosphate, it's a key building block for life. So phosphate is vital for life in the creation of DNA, in the creation of RNA, so energy carrying molecules, cell membranes, bones and teeth, animals, and even some plankton as well. So phosphate is a very important entity for life. Okay, for life. So if we are able to find the traces of phosphate in Enceladus, it means it points to the fact that life might exist in other planets as well, other planets or the other moons. Okay, other moons. So in this context, another information becomes important. So NASA's Cassini mission. So most of the times UPSC focuses on these questions. They'll give you a mission and match the following type of questions. You need to know what exactly is the aim of the mission. So in this context, the aim of the NASA's Cassini mission is to study the planet called as Saturn. To study the planet called as Saturn. So this was about the science and technology related discussion of what The Hindu. Okay, The Hindu, which was published on 2nd July 2023. So once you are done, you can just answer these prelims practice questions. So in the context of climate warming, extremes in snowfall is of more concern than extremes of rainfall. Extremes of rainfall. So these questions you are supposed to answer as either true or false. High altitude regions of southern hemisphere are more vulnerable to climate change induced extremes of rainfall than those of northern hemisphere. Next, mRNA based vaccines are considered to be relatively safer than vector based vaccines. Next, unlike coronary angiograms, the technique of myocardial flow rate focuses on the larger coronary arteries surrounding the heart than tiny branches. Next, condition of ischemia occurs due to lack of oxygen supply. Venus is known as red planet. Neutrons are also called as ghost particles. Neutrinos pass through straight through Earth undetected. Bake-2 is a planet that orbits giant star Hala. So planet Hala was engulfed recently by a giant star in its vicinity. Enceladus is the Saturn's largest moon. NASA's Cassini mission was to study Pluto. Next, apart from Earth, there is no evidence of the presence of phosphates on any other planet. Phosphates are an essential part in the creation of DNA but not RNA. Phosphates are an essential part in the creation of bones and teeth. So these are the practice questions. So if you are able to answer these questions, then it is well and good. Otherwise, I'll urge you to watch this video once again and try to answer these questions. So if we continue this exercise for 1 year period, then almost more than 50% of the questions we'll be able to answer in the upcoming prelims of 2024. So similarly, we'll be in the next upcoming videos, we'll be discussing the important topics related to UPSC. For all our further updates, subscribe to our channel and hit on the bell icon. Thank you.